In the mirror space. The reflection that reflects everything. Also on the dilapidated Broadway. Russell's figure appeared here. While looking around, I couldn't help feeling a little bit emotional. Speaking of it, the existence of magic seems to be the nemesis of the Green Titan. Whether it is soul astral or mirror space. For the Green Titan, a stupid big man who only knows how to use brute force, the restraint effect is very obvious. It's almost like it was born to deal with the Green Titan. Don't say it's him. Even if you change to a common mage. As long as you can find the right opportunity, you can do it to the Green Titan. Even in general, Mage couldn't shoot his soul out of his body. However, the existence of mirror space is real. As long as you have hands, it's a mage. If no other mage intervened, I believe the Green Titan would probably starve to death here. Definitely. It may also happen that Rage's Green Titan breaks through the space and escapes directly. After all, where is the upper limit of the Green Titan, and what will be done at the moment of life and death? No one can tell. Think so. Soon, Russell looked around, and immediately found the Green Titan. However, he was a little surprised. Green Titan's transformation, is that the end? Obviously didn't do anything, just lifted the state of transformation? Or rather, he should be called Dr. Banner now. Dr. Banner. While thinking about it, Russell quickly stepped forward and greeted him. Looking at all the unscientific things around him, Dr. Banner was a little skeptical about life and fell into deep thought. Hearing the voice suddenly, he suddenly came back to his senses, and turned his head to look over in surprise. Touching the back of his head, he felt a little embarrassed and asked. Do you know me? Are you finished? Before Russell could answer, he pointed to the side and said with a puzzled face. Also, do you know what exactly this place is? Why does this place look a little different? The phantoms of strange figures around him made him unconsciously want to touch them. But the results, without exception, all failed. Untouchable at all. The existence of these figures is like the latest holographic projection technology. The eye can see, but is completely impenetrable. This miraculous scene completely aroused his inner curiosity. As a scientist, his spirit of exploration is one of his greatest highlights. Although the past few years have been worn out under the Hulk's torture. However, facing the current miraculous phenomenon, it did not prevent him from thinking about it again. Believe it, if it wasn't for Russell's sudden appearance. It is estimated that he can still face these strange figures. I don't know how long to study. At the moment, facing Russell's appearance, he couldn't help throwing out the doubts in his heart. Is this holographic projection technology? They are all projected human beings? What the hell happened here? Could it be that I did all this? Hearing this, Russell couldn't help raising his eyebrows immediately. Ask so many questions at once. It seems that Dr. Banner, you also have the potential to become a chatterbox. Sorry, I was too anxious. Banner smiled shyly, a little embarrassed. Russell shook his head, not caring. I don't mean to blame you. After all, your situation is rather special. It is also the truth. After all, not everyone will be transformed once and be broken like drinking fake wine. Banner is still able to maintain such a good attitude, which is already amazing. Be a normal person instead. Under Hulk's torment, it is estimated that they are already blackened. This matter needs to start with the appearance of abomination. Russell was very patient and talked about it. And next did, listen and listen. The look on Banner's face became more and more exciting. Just like performing face changing in Sichuan opera, it turns green and white, which is very interesting. You mean, I caused all the damage here? Banner asked with a bitter face. Russell smiled and replied comfortingly, not all, part of it is because of hatred. But you don't have to worry about these, the military will take care of everything. The military takes the blame every day. Who is to say that everything is caused by them? Moreover, they also had a large force watching on the scene. All of this was seen by people. It's like yellow mud falling into the crotch, it's either shit or shit. Can't explain clearly at all. After a while of silence, Banner nodded tactfully and didn't ask any more questions. If we really want to hold him accountable, we probably have to sell him to pay for this loss. So, subconsciously, I chose to ignore the past. However, when he turned his head and looked at everything around him, he couldn't help frowning. You said, this is another world, and it was magic that brought me here? To be honest, he actually didn't quite believe it. As a scientist, he never believed that there was such a thing as magic in this world. Even if there is an unscientific Hulk in the body originally. In a sense, this is also a product of science. However, something unexpected happened. but immediately, he had to believe that everything Russell said was true. I saw that Russell waved his arm. In front of him, a vortex of gold suddenly appeared. The dazzling light hits directly, sparks fly. Looking around, you can still see the scene on the other side of the vortex. This is space teleportation technology. Banner was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help doubting life. He opened it with a wave of his hand. This is not scientific at all. Could it be that magic really exists in this world? Kamar Taj. Inside the magic holy place, a new guest has been welcomed. Early the next morning, walking on the road paved with Qingxi boards, Banner looked around curiously. With eyes full of disbelief, he looked around. If I hadn't witnessed it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that such a place existed in this world. Similarly, I will not believe in such unscientific things as magic. Everything that just happened. Looking back now, I can still vividly remember it. God knows what mood he was in, crossing the gate to gold. Excited, or doubting life. Anyway, all this is irrelevant now. Because everything around has fully confirmed the authenticity of the existence of magic. Huge amounts of square above. The mages in simple casual clothes are training. Daily magic practice. The moment the familiar gold vortexes appeared in front of him, the trace of doubt that still existed in his heart was immediately left behind by him. The rest is only the growing excitement. The existence of magic simply opened the door to a new world for him. He does not desire power. However, he was eager to find a solution to his own problems. Since the answer cannot be found in the field of science. So, can a solution be found in the incredible field of magic? He thought so. However, the look on his face showed a slight hesitation, and he didn't know how to speak. Should he say it? Coach, I want to learn magic? No, that's too straightforward. With his thin skin, he couldn't say such words at all. And between hesitation, Russell turned his head and saw through his mind at a glance. Dr. Banner, do you know what the essence of magic is? However, before Banner could respond, he answered on his own. The essence of magic is the accumulation and practice of knowledge. From this point of view, it is no different from science. The thirst for knowledge is not a shameful thing. If you have any thoughts in your heart, just say it. I won't blame you. Tell me, what do you long for? Russell looked over with interested eyes, wanting to get an answer from him. If it is said that the Green Titan is the god of door, guarding the home, it is his idea of a joke. Then, it is his interest to let the Green Titan, a monster with infinite strength, learn magic. He wanted to see, such a big stupid one. What kind of chemical reaction will be produced when combined with the magical ability? To become more monsters, or... Sorry, I have no intention of learning magic. Banner shook his head with a wry smile. People's energy is limited. I don't think I can do everything to the best. I just want to find a way to solve this monster in my body. As he spoke, he couldn't help touching his heart. It seems to be able to feel the existence of the monster called Hulk. Hearing this, Russell was a little disappointed and couldn't help sighing. Pity. But turning around, he praised without hesitation. Nice idea. People have self-knowledge. Not everyone has such a powerful ability as Tony. Perhaps Banner's ability in scientific research is not inferior at all. However, it's hard to say when it comes to the field of magic. Moreover, if ability common is a little bit, it is better to concentrate on scientific research if you are not good enough in magic. Banner nodded, and asked curiously, Supreme Mage, is that how you are called? This is what he just heard from the mage passing by. Although a little unclear. But seeing the respectful and convinced attitudes of the mages, I suddenly felt a little unusual. Ever since, he threw out the question that he had been pursuing in his heart for many years. Can you help me get rid of the monster in my body? With the power of magic? Definitely. Russell nodded without hesitation. It's not that difficult, it's very simple. Hulk's IQ is like that of a child a few years old. The joys, sorrows and joys of human beings are all reflected in him. Moreover, it is more straightforward. It's directly on the face. It's just that his way of expression is a little rough. However, before that, I need to remind you. The Hulk in you, he's not a monster, at best he's just a newborn baby. He needs to be taught, and it just so happens that I am a professional in this area. There is the experience of teaching Dormammu in it. He knows exactly how to teach a violent child. Turning his head, seeing Banner's undeniable gaze, Russell suddenly smiled. Don't rush to refute, you will understand this matter later. Before you can help you solve this problem, you must first learn to control your emotions. It just so happened that a scientist came to the magic holy place recently. I believe there must be a lot of common topics between the two of you. Scientist. Banner was stunned. What? A traitor in science? Instead of learning good scientific formulas, come to learn magic? So, out of curiosity, he quickly asked, who is he? Tony Stark. It turned out to be him. No wonder. Soon. Under Tony's bewildered eyes, Russell brought Banner to his residence. After explaining for a while, before he came back to his senses, he left on his own. Although he is also the supreme mage, however, unlike Ancient One. In some ways, he wasn't so patient, especially in teaching people. This kind of thing still needs to be handed over to the right person to do it. Seeing the back of Russell leaving, Tony felt inexplicably cheated. However, soon, he shook his head and put the thought behind him. How can someone like Supreme Mage cheat people? He must be thinking too much. However, looking at the smiling Dr. Banner in front of him, he felt a little headache again. Dr. Banner, right, I've heard about you. He has learned about the Green Titan in detail. It sounds like it has something to do with him. Because, in the hands of the military, some of the weapons used to capture the Green Titan were produced by Stark Industries. However, it didn't have the desired effect. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt pity. This unlucky boy was really forced to be miserable by the military. However, on the surface, it didn't show up. Instead, he pretended to be excited, and said excitedly, "Let's go. I'll show you around this magical holy place. Trust me, we will have a great time getting along in the days to come." Seeing his excited expression, Banner was speechless for a moment. It really is the character of this playboy. I want to solve the problem first, he said tactfully. He won't get peace of mind for a day until the Hulk matter is resolved. Even going to bed every day with fear. I'm afraid that if one doesn't pay attention, it will turn into a Green Titan again. Hearing this, Tony couldn't help but rolled his eyes. This kind of thing can't be rushed. Didn't the Supreme Mage say that you must first learn to control your emotions? First of all, you have to start by learning how to relax your mind. Inside the holy place. First thing Russell did when he got back. I just can't wait to check the sign in rewards. Everything editor. This is the reward for signing in to the system this time. The name alone aroused his strong interest. And soon, after checking the information in his mind, the smile on his face became brighter. It's not so much an editor for everything, but a synthesis tool for everything. Yes, that's right. Synthesis, just synthesis. These two words simply express the essence of this reward. The description of the system is simple. Ability to synthesize two items into one. Easy to understand. However, Russell found out that there was a lot of mystery in it. According to the introduction of the system, whether dead, living, etc. As long as it is something that can present an entity, it can be synthesized. Moreover, there is no limit to the number of synthesis. In other words, the same item can be stacked an infinite number of times. This function. An alternative strengthening. Russell rubbed his chin in thought. What if it is used to synthesize infinite gems? This picture is so beautiful that I can hardly imagine it. At that point, there will be no need for the Infinity Gauntlet at all. A gem, enough. Definitely, there is also the possibility of accidents. For example, synthesis comes out with a nemesis or something. However, before that, Russell still needs to test the function of this thing. To see if it was what he thought it would be. Soon, he found qualified test samples, 2 teacups. If it is as he wants. Then, when these two same teacups are synthesized together, they will obtain an essential superposition. It's as if the hardness and character of the 2 teacups have been superimposed. You'll get a much stronger and more durable mug. Soon, the first experiment, start. In the hands, white light emerged, covering the whole body. Soon, the light faded away. On the table, a strange object appeared. What kind of operation is this? Russell looked at the teacup in front of him, a little suspicious that he was alive. It doesn't matter if the cup space is doubled, at least it's understandable. But, what's with the extra cup ear? Has anyone ever seen a teacup with ears on the left and right? Physical synthesis. Russell picked up the teacup and couldn't help the corners of his mouth twitching. However, he still had some unbelief in his heart, and found a teacup again to conduct the experiment. The second experiment, start, however, after a burst of bright white light. Looking at the teacup in front of him, Russell became more and more skeptical about life. The amphora teacup obtained after the first synthesis plus commons teacup equals commons teacup? It's changed back to the file size of commons cup. Russell felt a headache. However, after trying it out, he keenly noticed the difference between the two. The hardness is different. This teacup is 3 times the original one. In other words, this synthesis was a success. Exactly what he had in mind. Immediately, Russell tried again. The 3rd time, the 4th time, until all the teacups in the holy place were used by him for experiments. The expression on Russell's face not only did not ease, but became more and more suspicious of life. Because he discovered that this synthesis tool from the system has no rules at all. Either it is short of weight, or the shape is wrong. Even if there is something that suits his mind, he can't find the reason for it. Maybe the things I used for the experiment were wrong. Such an idea suddenly popped up in my heart. In no time, he found another suitable lab. Book collection notes in the library. After a long time, Russell looked at a successful synthesis made up of an unknown number of books in front of him. The expression on his face was a bit dumbfounding. Magic, from getting started to giving up. Who knows why such a strange name appeared? Even he was a little unclear about what he had experienced. But now, he can be sure of one thing. That is, the synthesis function of this everything editor is completely random. Like, sometimes 1 plus 1 equals 2. A little outrageous, 1 plus 12. Be less serious, 1 plus 1 equals? The answers to some questions simply cannot be known. As in science, Schra paragraph marked Dinger's cat, for Russell. Now it's Schra paragraph marked Dinger's synthesis. There is no rule at all. Maybe, anyway, he didn't find any rules. However, this thing is also good in a sense. Russell stroked his chin, considering the value. In a sense, turning waste into treasure is its main function. For example, on issues that would make Russell feel entangled. Make the top of the magic weapon. He can do it very easily. After all, although Kamar Taj's magic weapon is somewhat single function, it is outdated. However, as long as it is synthesized again, it will be a brand new magic weapon. As for whether synthesis can produce the desired effect. At this point, Russell isn't too worried. Anyway, just try a few more times. And Russell feels even more that this thing exists. At some point, it might surprise him. Soon, Russell wasn't bothered with the problem. Standing up, he suddenly remembered something. By the way, it's time to remind that guy Tony. The steel battlesuit that was promised, but now I haven't even seen the small iron piece. On this matter, he was not in a hurry. However, he also needs to be properly reminded. And just as he thought so in his heart, immediately, at the gate of the holy place, a figure hurried in. Supreme Mage. Huh? Russell looked up, suddenly a little surprised. What's happening here? Said Cao arrived. Why did he come over just after talking about Tony? Coincide? Russell preferred to believe he had something to do. So, he asked with a smile, Tony, what's the matter? Hearing this, Tony nodded immediately, with a wry smile on his face. That's right, Supreme Mage, I need to go back to New York. Stark Industries, something happened. Definitely, I'll fix that soon. Small situation? Russell's tone was playful. Looking at you like this, it seems more than that. After hesitation, Tony nodded helplessly. Yes. Because of the disappearance of my chairman, the board of directors is already planning to kick me out. In the past, this was something he could not have dared to think about. But now, who made him, the chairman, go missing again? The vast Stark industry has no leader. Even with the help of Pepperpots, it is impossible to speak for him. So, he planned to go back first. I see. Russell nodded, thoughtfully. Immediately, he narrowed his eyes and reminded. Give you a piece of advice, watch out for Obadestine. Obadestine, my uncle? Hearing this, Tony looked over in surprise. Supreme Mage, did you find something? According to other mages in the holy place, the strength of the Supreme Mage is unfathomable. You can even see the direction of the world and what will happen in the future. But now that Russell was talking about it, his heart suddenly jumped. According to the normal situation, even if the board of directors had objections to his disappearance, they would not make such a big move. What happened this time immediately made him aware of something strange. Could it be that the problem this time lies with him? Obadestine, the good uncle who treated him like family. Does he really have a problem? Facing his puzzled eyes, Russell nodded and said with a smile. Have you forgotten that you were kidnapped by terrorists? I think you will find the answer in him. Hearing this, Tony's heart skipped a beat. At the same time, I couldn't help but associate the whole thing together. His face suddenly became more and more ugly. No wonder terrorists know where I am. It's no wonder they have weapons produced by Stark Industries in their hands. It turned out that my good uncle Obadiah did all of this. He is not dull. On the contrary, Tony is one of the few smartest people in the world. He didn't find the answer before, just because he subconsciously didn't want to think about it. After all, Obadiah raised him. It can even be said to be one of his few relatives. His brain resisted instinctively. And now, when Russell mentioned it, it suddenly dawned on him. Turning his head, Tony was ready to say goodbye and go back to the company to deal with this matter. However, Russell stopped him. Wait, remember to build me the steel battlesuit you promised. Also, remember to bring Dr. Banner with you. Hearing this, Tony froze in his footsteps, showing an expression uglier than crying. There's nothing wrong with the steel battlesuit thing, but the Dr. Banner thing. Can I refuse? What is the difference between carrying such a dangerous guy with you and strapping a time bomb on your body? The most important thing is that he still has no idea when the bomb will explode. No, cannot. After sending off Tony Stark with pleasure, Russell was about to try his luck. It's nicknamed Taobao in the garbage dump. Also known as Wang's exploration. What kind of magic weapon can be synthesized depends entirely on luck. There is no operability at all. However, Russell also deeply enjoyed it. After all, only the unknown is the most attractive. Like some goddess. From an outsider's point of view, it is very attractive. Cute, want it. Instead, it is the man behind the goddess. I guess I'm about to vomit. It's not as good as the good house on the side of the road. However, the footsteps have not taken a few steps. At this moment, in my mind, a reminder sounded. Group member, Marvel Ms. Carroll, has started the live function. Russell was taken aback. Immediately, he stopped. Starting? Big Mom versus Ronan the Accuser? After a while, he returned to his seat. Opened the chat group with great interest. This is a rare good show. Maybe, there will be some benefits. Well, as long as Aunt Marvel puts a little effort into killing Ronan. I thought so. Soon, the chat group interface came into view. At the same time, click on the live broadcast option. Immediately, a magnificent and vast scene suddenly appeared. This is a deep and fascinating starry sky. On the dark curtain, dotted with the light of the stars, shining brightly. The figure shrouded in gold energy is flying at high speed under the starry sky. Shuttle at a speed invisible to the naked eye. It was like a ray of golden light breaking through the dark starry sky. And they, the spectators who entered the live broadcast room. With the perspective of her back, it is constantly extending forward. Moreover, the phantoms of their respective avatars also appeared here at the same time. Next to him, the burly figure with arms folded couldn't help exclaiming. That's Ms. Marvel. What an amazing energy. No wonder she can be so unscrupulous in the universe. Tisk tisk tisk. I heard that she offended many people, but she is still alive and well. With such strength, no wonder. Hearing this, Russell immediately turned his head and glanced at him. Thanos. Who did he think was so loud? It turned out to be purple sweet potato essence, that's all right. However, upon hearing this, Thanos looked over immediately. Touching his big chin, he guessed in a somewhat uncertain tone. Exalted Mage. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of several people nearby looked over. Dormammu. It's you, Odin. Sure enough, a young man. Mo Faith. This supreme mage doesn't seem to be easy to talk to. Thousands of words were condensed into one sentence among many thoughts. Supreme Mage, it's a pleasure to meet you. With a smile on his face, he warmly reached out and shook hands. A hospitable, friendly look. However, some of them are sincere, perhaps only they themselves know. They are all old foxes, and hypocrisy has become a habit. Russell smiled and shook hands one by one. As the saying goes, reach out and don't hit smiling faces. Facing their overtures, he has no reason to refuse. Definitely, only the honest man Dormammu is the most honest. On the only remaining face of the pie, the eyes were burning. That gnashing of teeth looks like he can't wait to stare him to death. If it weren't for the projection here, there would be no power at all. I believe he can't wait to start. Being alone is sulking, and the copper bell-sized eyes are wide open. However, no one paid much attention to him at all. Because, the center of everyone's attention was on Russell, the Supreme Mage. Hee hee. Supreme Mage, remember to come to Asgard as a guest when you have time. It just so happens that we have an important ceremony to be held during this time. This is Odin. The words were obscure, probably because of the occasion. But he didn't forget to blink his eyes while speaking, hinting to Russell. Definitely. Russell was a little dumbfounded. Why does this old man feel a little old? This ambiguous look hints, where did he learn it from? Supreme Mage, if I have time, I would like to invite you to have a discussion. Just right, my hands have been itchy recently. Looking at Thanos' eagerness to try, Russell couldn't help but cast him a sideways glance. Who is this lying to? If your hands were itchy, would you still be skating so fast? This chin is almost up to the sky. I see that you clearly want to test my fighting power. There must be time, Russell responded casually. As for when you have time, next time, definitely next time. Supreme Mage, etc. Just as Faith was about to speak, he was interrupted by Russell. All of them have their own ulterior motives, and they are all planning his plans. Whoever it is, will be a little unbearable. We have to find a way to change the subject, Russell thought to himself. Glancing out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly noticed something strange in front of him. Look, the battle is about to begin. Hearing this, everyone looked in the direction he was pointing at. Really? Pull in with the vision. The huge fleet suddenly appeared within the field of vision of everyone. On the leading flagship, a figure was waiting solemnly. It is Ronan the Accuser, in the universe. Huge amounts of warships are like fortresses. Across the starry sky at a speed unimaginable by humans. The shining stars are left behind by them. Mighty, move forward. Among them, above the flagship, in front of the glass window. Looking at the comet-like figure that is getting closer and closer from far to near. Ronan's dark blue face couldn't help but become a bit ugly. In his mouth, he couldn't help muttering to himself. She really caught up. Like it was said in the chat group. This terrifying enemy who has always been against the Kree Empire has come to the door in person. At the moment, he felt a little regretful. Regret that I shouldn't have pissed her off in the chat group. Otherwise, the current situation would not be caused. At the same time, he couldn't help cursing incessantly. It's all the fault of that damn Yang Rog. If he hadn't brought this monster back, how could it have become like this? He is simply a sinner of the Empire. Back then, it was Yang Rog who brought Carol back to the Kree Empire. It was also because of him that Carol regained her original memory. This series of events will be triggered. If she had been killed directly at the beginning, how could such a thing happen now? Ronan was furious inside. If I had known earlier, I would have ignored the order and just killed her. At that time, this so-called Ms. Marvel didn't know how to control her own power. And now, it has become a big trouble they can't solve. How far is the nearest jump point? Ronan turned back and asked with a blank expression. At the current speed, it will take another 2 hours, the person behind said respectfully. 2 hours. I'm afraid that if the battleships are put on firework, the corpses will be completely cold. Activate the naval gun immediately and blast her to pieces. Ronan ordered immediately and said viciously. This is after the last time she confronted Ms. Marvel. An anti-star weapon specially prepared for her. Its power is enough to destroy a planet. Fiery energy and powerful shockwave. It can easily tear up the surface and penetrate the star core. As far as he knows, there is no one who can withstand such an attack head-on. Logically speaking, with such a big weapon in hand, he should have some confidence. Moreover, the artifact war hammer in his hand, the universal weapon, is also extremely powerful. However, he was still a little uneasy. How powerful it is not a question. However, whether it can be hit is another problem. Ronan asked himself. With the terrifying speed that Carol can catch up to their warships. I'm afraid, some are not realistic, as for the tough front. Come on. He has a lot in mind. What kind of artifact, what kind of universal weapon is useless? This power, I guess it can't withstand someone else's hammer. The head hammer that can smash a battleship will ask you if you are afraid? Soon. Not far away. The dazzling figure gradually approached. Like a comet, there is a brilliant tail flame behind it. However, in Ronan's view, behind this dazzling beauty is the shadow of death that gradually shrouds it. Are you ready? Ronan turned his head anxiously and asked through gritted teeth. I can't control this much anymore. Activate the shipborne weapons immediately and prevent her from approaching. The voice just fell. Immediately. On the battleship that neatly rode across the starry sky. Countless huge and hideous muzzles opened. It is densely packed, almost armed to the teeth. Immediately afterwards, countless rays of light lit up, and the deep blue rays of light gradually emerged. Under the dark curtain, in the deep space of the universe, the overwhelming light shines directly, and the torrent of energy sweeps in. Massive, magnificent scene. Even Russell, who was watching the battle behind, couldn't help feeling a little tingly. This dense energy beam is simply the gospel for patients with obsessive-compulsive disorder. Thanos next to him, on the contrary, had an expression of admiration on his face. It's been a long time since I saw such a scene. I really miss the time when I fought in all directions. What's the matter? Odin said disdainfully. With a glance, he came to Russell and said eagerly, Supreme Mage, when you come to Asgard, I'll show you something even more spectacular. More spectacular? Could it be a firework feast sparked by the flame titan Serta? Ragnara paragraph mark K. Regarding this, Russell smiled irrefutably, and didn't say much. Immediately, his eyes turned to the front again. The overwhelming attack seemed to annihilate everything in front of him. No to momentum. Anyone who looks at it can't help feeling a little apprehensive. Unfortunately, however, the enemy I faced this time was called Carol. Female boxer, strike hard. The light of blue gold flashed across. The dense energy beam exploded in an instant. Obviously there was no sound. However, it was a spectacular fireworks feast that couldn't be more spectacular. Ronan is dead. Murder Faith came to a conclusion. This Hell Lord who has lived for an unknown amount of time has always had a vicious vision. Otherwise, it would be impossible to develop his tricky taste. Even if it's the first time seeing two people. However, the gap in combat power between the two was also seen immediately. Ronan could only rely on the cover of the huge fleet. Shivering inside. And look at Carol, unscathed. The intensive attacks did not stop her progress in the slightest. The mud cow entered the sea without any damage. Instead, take advantage of this opportunity. Rampage, like entering no one's land. The huge fleet disintegrated in an instant. These warships are made of steel. In front of her, the fragility is like a tofu dregs project. After circling around and destroying the fleet, she even has time to come to Ronan and challenge him. The fleet was destroyed and the warships suffered heavy losses. Ronan's heart was literally bleeding. However, compared to his own life, these are nothing. On the contrary, it was Carol's above-board provocation that made him go crazy with anger. This woman dares to give me the middle finger. Huge amounts of flagship peripherals. A figure full of blue and gold streamers stood standing, motionless as if watching his joke, and the raised middle finger made his heart twitch even more. He felt that his personality had been insulted. It was like being slapped in the face by someone, and then being put down on the ground and stomped on a few times. Are the naval guns ready? Ronan yelled through gritted teeth. It's fully charged. Okay, shoot me right now. The voice just fell. With push button start. Instantly. The faint blue light gradually gathered. The huge energy seems to illuminate the entire starry sky. Boom. The entire battleship trembled. The extremely compressed energy beams spewed out. The energy is full and the vastness is boundless. Cut through the silent space of the universe. Like a silent death god, brandishing his scythe. What an amazing weapon. Seeing this, Carol couldn't help but admire in his heart. It seems that the supreme wisdom has already made preparations to deal with me. However, all this is in vain. As long as she wanted to, she could easily dodge this attack. However, she doesn't want to now. Facing the huge torrent of energy, Carol clenched his fists, and the energy fireworks became more intense. The mighty gesture reappeared. It shone like a comet. Immediately afterwards, collision. Facing the impact of the torrent of energy, he went straight up hard. Huge amounts of energy collide constantly. The intertwined light of blue and gold illuminates the entire starry sky. As expected of the woman with the toughest head in Marvel. Seeing this scene, Russell couldn't help shaking his head speechlessly. If it were someone else, they would definitely avoid this kind of attack. She is the only one who dares to choose to be so positive and tough. Even Thanos probably wouldn't dare to take his head off like that. After all, a head that can be chopped off is not considered an iron head. However, Carol does have the capital to do so. On the battlefield, gold's light became more and more dazzling, gradually covering blue's light. The strong light caused even the few people watching the battle to squint their eyes. Boom. Without hindrance, the shining figure directly runs through the entire battleship. It even broke into two pieces directly, and was chopped off by the middle. Pause time. Under the cosmic starry sky, a scene of dead silence. It's all settled. The huge accuser legion, all turned into cosmic garbage, floated above the starry sky. Look, am I right? Mo Faith smiled. I already knew the answer to this kind of thing. Dormammu snorted coldly and said disdainfully. Thanos smiled and said nothing. He said that he is the smartest man. However, Russell noticed something was wrong. Ronan isn't dead yet? He did not receive feedback from the system. Even if there is no hint, there must be a powerful feedback, right? Hearing this, everyone was stunned and looked at each other in blank dismay. Immediately, Carol's figure appeared in front of everyone. In the double star form, she is as dazzling as the sun. Why didn't you just kill that guy? Thanos crossed his arms, a little dissatisfied. He hadn't forgotten Ronan's plan to bring disaster to the east. If he hadn't been afraid of the supreme wisdom behind him, he would have solved this guy himself. Carol glanced at him in surprise, a little disdainful. Thanos? The destroyer of 1,000 planets? Are you teaching me how to do things? Hearing this, Thanos' eyes widened. Do you want to piss me off? In an instant, the atmosphere froze. The two star-crossing powerhouses looked at each other, and there was a tendency to fight if there was a disagreement. Finally, Odin couldn't stand it any longer. He took a step forward, stood in front of the two of them, and acted as a peacemaker. With a pleasant face, okay, you two, there's no need to fight over such a trivial matter. Hearing this, Carol immediately looked away. He curled his lips, and after looking around, he frowned and said, Actually, I'm not ready for an all-out war with the Kree Empire. What she did before could be regarded as petty trouble at best. For the Kree Empire, it's just a drizzle, however. The destruction of the Accuser fleet this time, I am afraid that even the Kree Empire will be traumatized. If even Ronan the Accuser, one of the pillars of the Kree Empire, died here, I'm afraid that the fleet of Supreme Intelligence will come to her next time. In this regard, she is not afraid, however, what she worries about is that Earth. If there is a war with the Kree Empire, then their primary goal must be here. However, with a twinkle in her eyes, Russell immediately guessed what was going on in her heart. Although it has some influence because of her strength. But, I have to say, on a spiritual level, this Aunt Marvel is almost defenseless. You don't have to worry about this problem. Except for Thanos and Ronan, almost all the members in the chat group are related to Earth. If the Supreme Intelligence dares to invade Earth, Dormammu, will you agree? Russell turned his head and squinted. Earth is my territory, Dormammu murmured. Although I was upset, I felt like I was being used. But on this issue, he still has a clear distinction. Unanimously external. Which onion is the Supreme Intelligence? Hearing this, Russell nodded in satisfaction. Mer Faith? Hee. Mo Faith smiled slightly, and said politely, if there is a need, I will be happy to help. How could someone trample on her back garden at will? Odin, on the other hand, is more direct. Before Russell looked over, he spoke directly. The 9 worlds are one. Asgard is never afraid of any challenge. As soon as he opened his mouth, he was an old fool. Hearing this, Russell couldn't help but rolled his eyes. The fart of the 9 realms, it's just talking nonsense. When Dormammu invades and the alien disaster strikes, why is he nowhere to be seen? Also, of the 9 worlds you mentioned, except for the Earth, which one has not been fumbled by you? However, I thought so in my heart. But in his mouth, he could only echo in a serious manner. Odin is right, we will not tolerate any intruders. People gave him this supreme mage face like this, and he reciprocated. Open one eye and close one eye. Let's not expose Odin's lies for now. And here. Carol on the side couldn't help being a little stunned. Earth? You all came out of the Earth? No wonder I feel a familiar feeling. After all, even in the vast universe, the unique appearance of people on Earth is rare. But, right now, she couldn't help but have some doubts in her heart. When did so many strong people appear on the Earth? What's more, she doesn't even know any of them. Seeing the awe-inspiring appearance of these people, the attitude of a big boss. Just on the surface, she is no worse than her. Not to mention, there must be other means hidden in the dark. She even had some doubts. Is the Earth I mentioned and the Earth Russell mentioned the same place? Could it be that mine is a fake Earth? The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. At the beginning, when she was fighting wits with the Skrulls and Kree people. But I never thought that there are such strong people on the Earth. And now, a swarm of bees has all popped up. This is so. It felt like I was being kept in the dark. I'm a little upset. Seeing the look on her face, Russell smiled. The form on the earth is very complicated, and I can't explain it clearly for a while. If you have time, you can go back to Earth. I think, you should also want to meet old friends. Carol nodded after pondering for a moment. Indeed. I haven't seen each other for so long, I don't know what new changes have taken place on Earth. Also, there are so many strong men on Earth. When I think about it, I have some doubts about life. Over the years, the powerhouses she has seen in the universe are not as many as the ones in front of her. It is very necessary to go back and find out the situation. Only. Turning the subject, she went on to say. Before that, I need to deal with the affairs of the Kree Empire. Hearing this, Russell nodded. Well, let's talk when you have time. Carol nodded. Immediately, he shifted his gaze. Turning his head, he turned to the shivering figure in the escape cabin. Ronan, danger, in the chat group. The name of the accuser Ronan gradually faded. Through the live broadcast, everyone who watched the whole incident definitely knew what was going on. Not surprisingly, Ronan should have been taken care of by Carol. As usual, after giving Dormammu a silence package, Russell immediately closed the chat group. He looked up and looked at a certain place, coming. In the void, strange fluctuations suddenly appeared, spread along the trajectory of space with a unique frequency. Soon, he came to Russell's side. In an instant, it poured into his body. He knew that this was a reward from the system. To be precise, it should be a chat group. After Ronan dies, give him the power to provide. The magic power is surging, and the breath is permeating. Not long after, the rewards were received. Clenched his fists, feeling the powerful force contained in his body, Russell was very satisfied. Good. Although the magic power has not improved much, but in terms of body, it has increased by more than 10 times. After all, they are aliens, and it is normal that their physical fitness is far superior to that of humans on Earth. Moreover, as the leader of the accuser force of the Kree Empire, Ronan still has 2 brushes. It seems that this chat group is still very useful. Russell rubbed his chin in thought. As long as it can stir up trouble, the role of the chat group is not insignificant. Even in some respects, it is much simpler than the system. It's just that Ronan is the weakest member of the group. Death is a matter of time for him. The rest are nothing to bully. One by one, they are either powerful, or Mephisto from the extraterritorial dimension. Not a weakling like Ronan, it is not an easy task to solve them. But soon, shaking his head, Russell dismissed the idea for a while, and put it behind him. Don't think about it so much for the time being, just follow the fate. Now, let's adapt our own strength first. At the same time, Kamar Taj, outside the magic holy place. In the SHIELD temporary station, Nick Fury looked at the information in front of him with a look of joy. Tony Stark in New York, he finally appeared. It's not easy, they waited foolishly here for so long without finding any useful clues. And now, come to the end of all hardships, this Tony Stark, who seems to have magical powers, finally appeared. But immediately, Nick Fury calmed down, turned around and asked. He suddenly appeared in New York, is there something important? It should be a matter for the board of directors of Stark Industries. Next to him, Phil Coulson replied with a weird face. Tony Stark is not here, and those shareholders seem to have some wrong ideas. A bunch of idiots, Nick Fury sneered and commented sharply. They don't even know what they are going to face. That was a power from the mystical realm, and it was totally subversive to the commoners. Want to seize the rights to Stark Industries while Tony is away? How could it be successful? I'm afraid, when they associate him with Mage on Broadway. It will be messed up. All the conspiracies and tricks are not worth mentioning in the face of absolute strength. But anyway, they did a good thing, didn't they? At least, they managed to lure him out of this mysterious place. Phil Coulson shrugged, humorously. Hearing this, Nick Fury nodded with a satisfied smile on his face. That's right. If it weren't for them, maybe we don't know how long we have to wait to find clues. God knows what they have been through these days. In order to obtain some useful information, all kinds of detection methods have been used. Even the most primitive method, human search. However, the scientists under him changed crop after crop, but did not find any useful information. More or less, everyone has some doubts about life. Nowadays, the reappearance of Tony Stark gave them a little hope. Seems like an opportunity. Just pry open his mouth, and you will be one step closer to the mysterious realm of magic. Soon, Nick Fury turned his head and ordered immediately. Phil Coulson, agent, you stay here to preside over the work. Tony Stark, I'll go there myself. It just so happens that I still have a suitable bargaining chip in my hand, which will definitely make him speak. New York. Stark Industrial Building. In the chairman's office. How did you find it? Tony asked impatiently. Hearing this, Posey looked at him resentfully. At this time, shouldn't you be concerned about my safety first? However, she also knew that Tony's mind was probably confused now. Caring is messy. It's hard to be betrayed by the person you trust the most. I guess I have completely forgotten all the skills of flirting with girls in the past. Now, there is no time to manage so much. I thought so. Soon, Potts returned to his usual capable posture and said seriously. I found the evidence. It was indeed Obadiah's doing. Whether it's the terrorist attacks you encountered in the Middle East, or the conspiracy of the board of directors, he planned it all. Definitely, including those stray Stark industrial weapons. With that said, she took out a memory card. The video here is evidence. These words immediately broke the last thought in Tony's heart. Really? Tony slumped down on the office chair all of a sudden, with a disappointed expression on his face. I should have thought it was his. Fortunately, I still treat him as a relative. But who would have thought that he would treat me like this? Seeing this, Posey couldn't help but stepped forward, comfortingly said. Tony, it's not your fault. I know. Tony nodded dejectedly. I thought that what I gave him was enough, right? Status and fame. He has never let me down. However, who would have imagined that the person who wanted to take my life was actually him? He wants more. Potts punned. Not everyone can be inferior to others. Some people are ambitious from the very beginning. It's just that there is no chance to show it. Tony nodded helplessly, acknowledging it. This time, if it wasn't for Supreme Mage's reminder, the consequences could be disastrous. Thinking of this, Tony couldn't help shivering in his heart. He was very grateful. Even if you have stepped into the mysterious realm and become a mage. However, in essence, he is still a common man. There are still many things that can threaten him. What's more, it's easy to dodge an open spear, but hard to guard against a hidden arrow. Facing the backstab of the most trusted person around, not many people can bear it. Beside, Dr. Banner was confused. After hearing so much, he now has only one thought in his mind. Your circle is really chaotic. However, facing their behavior of showing affection and feeding dog food, he said that he couldn't bear it. You obviously said it well. Why are you hugging again? Can't you think about the thoughts of the single man next to him who has just experienced the pain of a broken relationship? Also, where is your head heading, Tony? Your idea is very dangerous, you know it. With constant slander in his heart, Banner couldn't help but interrupted. Tony, can we get down to business first? Well, let me be sad for a while. Tony squeezed into Potts' arms, mumbled. Hearing this, Banner's head was suddenly full of black lines. I think you are feeling sad and want to shoot. Sad ass. Tony, I can't take it anymore. Banner reminded. What? Hearing this, Tony instantly woke up. Hastily broke free from Posey's arms, and looked up. I saw that Banner's face was as usual, and there was no abnormality. Fortunately, it didn't turn green. Tony breathed a sigh of relief. But for a while, there was no desire to promote a relationship with Potts in his heart. If Banner suddenly lost control at this time, it would be a nightmare. I'm afraid little Thomas will be too scared to stand up. Pause. Tell me, where is Obadiah now? With a serious expression on his face, Tony turned his head and asked. In the park, in the factory. Okay. Take me there right away, Tony ordered immediately. At the same time, he turned his head and did not forget to remind him. Dr. Banner, pay attention to controlling your emotions. Clear. Banner nodded gravely. But in my heart, I couldn't help laughing. It still works. Are you afraid of me being green? In the industrial park area. Inside the factory, where huge amounts of arc reactor is located. As soon as they entered the door, Tony and others noticed something strange. Huh? He seems to have been prepared for a long time? The entire factory was silent. There was not even a sound, it was very quiet. Obadiah was the only one, with his hands behind his back, looking at them with a smile. It seems that it has been waiting for a long time. Tony, you're here. It's much faster than I imagined. However, it just so happens that it's time for Stark Industries to change its owner. The voice just fell. Obadiah smiled and clapped his hands. Immediately, dense footsteps came from inside the factory. Everyone was shocked. And Posey couldn't help turning his head back, and said worriedly, "Tony." However, before he could finish speaking, Tony stopped him with a wave of his hand. "Don't worry, I've already prepared for it." Even the beast knew resistance before the moment. As for Obaday's counterattack, he had already expected it in his heart. He frowned and looked forward. Not long. Dozens of heavily armed soldiers surrounded Obaday. The black muzzle pointed straight at several people, making one's scalp tingle. Hidden under the helmet, the bloodthirsty and cruel eyes are even more creepy. For a moment, a chilling atmosphere permeated the scene. Even Potts and Banner on the side shivered suddenly, sweating profusely. Seeing this, Tony couldn't help snorting coldly. You really colluded with terrorists. He was not frightened, he had expected it in his heart. He recognized these terrorists disguised as soldiers at a glance. However, it was something he didn't expect. There are so many. Hee. Obaday couldn't help squinting, and said with a winner's smile. So what? Tony, you are the only one who is so innocent and stupid enough to shut down the weapons department. As long as you stay here, no one will ever know about my cooperation with them. At that time, everyone will know that I, Obadestine, am the savior of Stark Industries. And you, Tony Stark, are just an idiot run over by the wheels of the times. No one will fight me because of a dead man. Right, Tony? Dead man has no value. The world of capital is such a reality. Money is the uncle. No matter how talented a character is, once he dies, he will only be forgotten. Maybe someone will remember. But at that time, it might just be a plain sigh. Oh, it's that playboy, son. As for what good deeds he has done and what kind of contributions he has made, who will remember? That's right. Tony nodded in agreement. However, turning the subject, he continued, but the premise of all this is that you can get rid of me. After speaking, he raised his arm. In the hands, the sling ring is clearly visible. The light of gold gradually became stronger. Then, in an instant, the energy converged and gradually formed two shields. Above, engraved with mysterious runes, the radiance of magic flows indefinitely. In addition, the entire magic shield slowly rotated. Seeing this, the terrorists suddenly exclaimed. Can't help but stir up. And for a while, Obadi's smiling expression also froze on his face, his expression stunned. What is this? A new invention? As a scientist, Tony's genius mind is impeccable. From time to time, new inventions will appear in his hands. However, the scene in front of him made Obaday a little hard to understand. He obviously didn't carry any high-tech weapons on him. Why did he? Suddenly, something seemed to come to mind. For a moment, his heart skipped a beat. This golden light, and that mysterious shield. All of this seems to be sending some kind of unusual signal to him. Broadway. Suddenly thought of what happened there not long ago. Obaday suddenly broke out in cold sweat and looked terrified. I couldn't help but open my mouth to order. Fire! Kill him immediately. It's too late, Tony sneered, as soon as the words are finished. Suddenly, the space changes. Everyone only felt that their eyes were dark, and they were a little unstable. When he came back to his senses, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. I saw that countless strange patterns emerged on the ground. Like a slowly fading relief, but also like a never-ending kaleidoscope. The entire ground seemed to be a living thing, flowing continuously. Even their figures could not restrain themselves from retreating. What is this? In the end, what happened? The terrorists suddenly panicked and couldn't help but exclaim. And Obaday clearly knew more. His eyes fixed on the past, his face gradually became ferocious, and he said with gritted teeth. It's actually magic. It never occurred to him. During the period of disappearance, Tony actually turned his head and threw himself into the embrace of magic. Moreover, he was really accepted by people. That's right. There was an approving smile on Tony's face, radiant as hell. It seems that you know a lot. Immediately afterwards, he didn't bother to care so much. The long-lost pretend moment is coming, and every second cannot be wasted. So, he opened his hands and made a hug, pretending to be exaggerated. Gentlemen, welcome to my world. Kamar Taj, inside the holy place. Russell was flipping through books and looking up information. It's not difficult to see just from the dim yellow color on the pages. Antique. Over the past few days, he has been adapting to his own strength. On the other hand, I don't forget to study the everything editor given by the system. Well, to be precise, it should be an attempt. All kinds of strange things are synthesized together. There have been good and bad results. Except for a few four-faced characters, most of them are practical gadgets. However, for him, it didn't do much. He casually threw it to Modu and asked him to assign it. As a result, the entire Kamar Taj carnival was attracted. Russell couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth when he thought of the fanatical groupies of mages. These mages are so innocent. Just some out-of-the-ordinary instruments made them feel like Chinese New Year. Definitely, it's also possible that the mages are used to it. I am really not interested in Kamar Taj, which have monotonous functions. That's why he was so ecstatic about these compound function instruments. Right away, though, Russell wasn't thinking about it. His mind was completely immersed in the book in front of him. This is a branch of magica alchemy. To be precise, it should be called potion science. As the name suggests, it is a subject of making magic potions. At the same time, it is also one of the original basic theories of magic. However, with the dilution of energy, the environmental damage caused by humans and the intensification of the industrialization process, this subject has been gradually forgotten. Mainly, there are no suitable magic materials. Even the Ancient One left this magic in a corner for ashes. One can imagine the difficulty. However, Russell suddenly remembered it. Not because of how powerful it is, but because the effects of this magic and the ability of the everything editor. It's so similar, in essence, the same as synthesis. However, potions have certain limitations. However, there is one thing that the editor of everything is incomparable. That is, it can formulate synthesis. At least, under certain conditions, it can come in handy. For example, the blood of a green titan is a good potion material. Maybe, some potions that enhance strength can be researched, Russell murmured inwardly. Anyway, isn't Kamar Taj's mage all into hand-to-hand combat? Simply put them green. Green titan version of the barbarian mage, are you afraid? Definitely, you can also add some Asgardian samples in it. Might be able to increase lifespan a bit. Well, and the bones of the Ghost Rider of Murder Faith and such. Regenerative healing factor schedule it. Russell had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Throughout Marvel, there are many interesting things. And suitable materials are not without. It's just that he was too lazy to go out for a run. However, at this moment, Russell's eyes suddenly became sharp. Frowning, his eyes looked somewhere in the holy place. Come out. However, there was no movement, nothing unusual. Where the eyes are, there is an empty space. Hee, it seems that you are still determined, Russell sneered. You think you can hide it from me with your crappy magic? After finishing speaking, he stretched out his hand. The ripples of invisible permeate the air. Along the space net, Gold's magic power spread instantly. Boom. Ahem. A figure appeared instantly, clutching his chest and praising. As expected of Supreme Mage, seeing the figure appearing in the air, Russell was suddenly a little surprised. Loki. The little deer Bambi with the antler helmet in front of him is evil god Loki. No wonder he was able to ignore the magic barrier and break into the holy place. No wonder the invisibility magic is so proficient. It turned out to be Loki. That's all right. This little clever ghost has no other skills, but likes to engage in crooked ways. Definitely, this is also related to him not paying much attention to the outside world. After all, it is a melee mage with full escape ability. It is normal to be a little more proficient in various magic tricks than other mages. However, this did not prevent him from being a little suspicious. Why are you here? Well, Asgard doesn't wait. What are you doing here on Earth? Do you want to make trouble? Or, this guy cheated, and was chased by the hammer again? You know me? Sensing Russell's strange look, Loki frowned. But then, I immediately felt relieved. If you don't have this ability, then you'd still be a fart Supreme Mage. Supreme Mage, I came here this time because I want to. Wait. Russell reached out and interrupted him. At the same time, he looked over with playful eyes, which made his scalp tingle. Before that, there is a balance that needs to be calculated carefully. Trespassing on a magical holy place is no small matter. If you don't leave the good gate, you must not take the usual path. This habit is unacceptable. Have to change. Noticing his unfriendly gaze, Loki couldn't help trembling in his heart, and suddenly had an ominous premonition. What do you want to do to me? I am the son of Odin, evil god Loki. Besides, I'm here with friendship this time. It's okay. Odin will probably thank me for helping him educate his son. Russell waved his hand indifferently. As he spoke, he grinned and showed a bright smile. Fly in the sky for a while, See you in half an hour. The voice just fell. Under Loki's feet, the gold vortex suddenly opened. Caught off guard, he fell straight down. Looking up, his eyes climbed up, and his eyes penetrated the roof. Looking at the figure falling back and forth in the sky, screaming pitifully. Russell rubbed his chin, thinking with interest. What should I say at this time? Woohoo, take off. After half an hour, snapped, the gold vortex opened, and a figure fell from it. It's Loki. At the moment, he had a broken expression on his face. Lie flat on the ground, motionless. His eyes were lifeless, and there was a sense of despair in his unlovely little eyes. Limp on the ground like an ooze monster, his whole body has lost all strength. Hey, are you all right, Loki? Russell waved his hand in front of him playfully. How do you feel? Have a nice trip. Ridicule. It's just naked sarcasm. Have a nice trip is what you mean. How about trying to fall continuously in the sky for half an hour? Loki felt intense malice. The supreme mage in front of him seemed to have planned to trick himself a long time ago. Full of malice, at this moment, outside the door, a figure walked in. It's Mage. As soon as he entered the door, he was taken aback. Looking at Loki lying on the ground, with black question marks all over his face. Supreme Mage, what's going on? Don't worry about it, maybe he thinks it's cool on the ground. Russell waved his hand and teased. Hearing this, Loki suddenly became angry. He staggered up from the ground and stood up straight. Sovereign Mage, is this your Midgard hospitality? No, it's just that you visited in the wrong way. Who made you like sneaking so much? Are you planning to spy in the dark or something? However, seeing his legs swinging, he tried his best to pretend that he didn't care. Russell somehow found it funny. As expected of you, Loki. Shame on Asgard. No wonder he was so disliked in Asgard. There is a reason for all this, but then again. As a frost titan, Loki with sealed blood can live well in Asgard. It is not a miracle that he has not been driven crazy by the hammer. The strange look in Russell's eyes immediately made Loki feel extremely uncomfortable in his heart, burning with anger. This look is just like what he encountered in Asgard. That's the way to look at other people. As if he shouldn't belong here. It's just that he remembered the identity and unfathomable strength of the person in front of him. Loki immediately put away the small thoughts in his heart. With a cold snort, he found a seat and sat down. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, and said, Supreme Mage, I come with Odin's will. Odin's will? Russell was suddenly puzzled. If Odin had anything to say to him. Just go through the chat group, there is no need to send someone over, it takes a lot of trouble. Unless. This is a major event that cannot be revealed in front of other people in the group. Really. Loki's next words confirmed the conjecture in his heart. God King Odin is about to abdicate, and Thor will succeed him. Entrusted by my father, I specially invite you to Asgard to observe the ceremony. Odin abdicates? So early? Russell was a little stunned and couldn't help being surprised. This development seems to be a little too fast. It was completely different from what he knew. Does the current hammer have the ability to inherit the throne? And Loki in front of me, are you sure you don't want to do anything? But soon, he was too lazy to think about it. He can't control so much about Asgard. One Earth is enough for him. He, the Supreme Mage, can't control Odin's territory. However, invite me to watch the ceremony? Russell rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. Then, he nodded, agreeing. Tell Odin and say I agree. If the original plot is followed, there must be a good show to watch. However, who knows the current situation and the development of the situation? Simply, just treat it as a trip to Asgard. Hearing this, Loki nodded and continued. The time is 15 Earth days later. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and held it open, opening his palm. And, this is a gift from my father to you. Congratulations on becoming Supreme Mage's congratulatory gift. A cluster of flames rose in his palm. Swaying in the breeze, it seems that it will go out in the next second. However, Russell didn't dare to underestimate him at all. The flames are filled with the breath of eternal vastness. Deep and charming. Like a never-ending flame, it illuminates the entire holy place. The eternal fire? Loki looked at the flame in his hand, with complicated eyes. Had it not been for Odin's orders, and this thing is a gift for the Supreme Mage in front of him. It is estimated that he himself can't help being greedy for ink. It's just that, with a wicked heart but no guts, he took it out honestly. To be precise, it should be part of the origin of the eternal fire, Loki explained enviously. Don't look at what he has in his hand as just a small flame. There is no comparison with the eternal fire in front of Kuri in Odin. However, this thing can grow. It can spontaneously absorb the energy of the universe and gradually grow stronger. Ultimately, it's not out of the question to grow to the point where the true eternal fire is. After speaking, he reached out and handed the eternal fire over. Taking it casually, Russell looked at the small flame in his hand with great interest. This is Odin's spoils from the war years. The energy source of flame titan Surta possesses powerful and incredible ability. In the past, it was sealed in Kuri and no one was allowed to touch it. However, Odin would be willing to take this thing as his gift? This was something Russell hadn't expected. Is this Odin sending a friendly signal to me? Or, is he simply sending the source of what triggered Ragnar? Paragraph mark K? The answer to this question, Russell does not know. However, what he knew was, originally, this flame represented big trouble. Sooner or later, there will be a flame titan called Surta. Come to the door and knock on the door with a big sword in hand. However, it is not a cause for concern for the time being. Not to mention whether he can beat or not. Before you trouble him, let's go through the hammer level. Putting the eternal fire away casually, Russell said with a satisfied smile. Tell Odin. Just say I'm happy with his present. Loki nodded, muttering inwardly. If you're not satisfied with this gift, then I might as well give you all of Asgard. God knows how long he's been craving Odin's Kuri. However, the right opportunity has never been found. And now, there is finally a little hope. As a result, it is not yet warm in your hands, so you have to give it to others. The most important thing is, he was taught a lesson. There is no way to find someone to reason with this matter. Loki suddenly felt a little tired. In my heart, I swear to myself. If you see this supreme mage in the future, you must stay far away. Better not to meet again. In order not to be found an excuse again, teach me a lesson. In that case, supreme mage, I will take my leave first. Go slowly, don't send. AA outside Kamar Taj. Phil Coulson looked at the man in front of him, both surprised and troubled. General Ross, why are you here? As one of the top ranks of the military. Moreover, he is also a representative of the radical faction, he definitely recognizes him. Even, have dealt with him. It's just that Phil Coulson was a little surprised. I will actually see him here, 80%, it was Rhodes who provided them with information again. Being one of the few friends of Tony Stark, Rhodes wanted to get information from him, but it was much easier than them. It's not a difficult game at all. He had a lot of resentment about getting kicked out by Tony Stark. In front of him, the silver-haired General Ross was all smiles. Long time no see, Phil Coulson agent. I thought, you should know what I want. Your small actions, I can't pretend that I don't know. What are you talking about? Phil Coulson was suddenly stunned. On the surface, he remained silent, pretending to be confused. But obviously, General Ross didn't like him. Leaning over and bowing his head, he whispered softly in his ear. Your spies in the military have been caught by me. Phil Coulson was speechless for a moment, and could only sigh deeply. It is because of these spies. Rhodes got first-hand information from Tony. It will fall into the hands of their shield. It's just that I didn't expect it. The military's response was much faster than they had imagined, and the spies were immediately caught out. How do I get them back? Phil Coulson rubbed his nose and asked with a wry smile. This matter, they still don't take care of it. Speaking out, I'm afraid it's just a joke. In this situation, I can only hold my nose and admit it. Very good. General Ross was very satisfied with Phil Coulson's sense of humor. I need to take over this area. Next, no matter what we do, you must not interfere. Hearing this, Phil Coulson was a little puzzled. Take over this area? Could it be that the military also wants to get in touch with the power of magic? But right away, he knew he wanted to go wrong. Moreover, it was outrageously wrong. Watching the fighter jets whizzing by in the sky. Not far away, troops slowly moving forward, he suddenly became a little dazed. How the hell do you want to get in touch with magic? Looking at them like this, it is clear that they are trying to grab us by force. Looking not far away, the dusty scene. Phil Coulson is a little messy. Is this military so courageous? Are all the troops coming here? Although I have long known the military's behavior style. However, for their actions this time, he still feels a little puzzled. It's outrageous. Have you forgotten? The people here are not common people. Deal with them the same way you deal with the commons. At least according to Phil Coulson, this idea is not plausible. Not to mention, what happened on Broadway is a lesson. The strength of the military can't even take down a Green Titan. How could it be possible to deal with Mage who can easily solve the Green Titan? The scene in front of him almost broke Phil Coulson's 3 views. The ghost knows what a strange brain circuit these people in the military have to come up with such an idea. Could it be that they still have something to rely on? Armed troops, straight ahead, triggered riots throughout the city. Exclamations sounded one after another, however, beside. General Ross is smiling and confident. Phil Coulson, agent, don't worry. We've already made all the preparations. Use the power of science to deal with unscientific. Phil Coulson couldn't help complaining. I think this is a disaster for everyone, although he doesn't know the consequences of angering the strong. However, it can also be guessed. History has proven it time and time again. Only death can end all this. No, Phil Coulson, agent, you were wrong. General Ross shook his head and said slowly, as long as it is a human being, there will be weaknesses, and there will be the possibility of communication. We came here with sincerity and negotiated with them. As long as they hand over the magic and the Hulk, then we will have no next move. Otherwise, hee. General Ross sneered and didn't say much. After speaking, he got into the car. Follow the troops and move forward slowly. Seeing this, Phil Coulson was speechless. It seems that these people in the military are a little inflated. Everyone is dead-brained, and they trust the weapons in their hands too much. Want to use this kind of threat to make people compromise? In other words, no one would agree. Where did General Ross's fanciful self-confidence come from? He didn't know. However, he knows. Regardless of whether General Ross succeeds, it is not a good thing for them. Watching the troops leave, Phil Coulson immediately pulled out his phone. Pull out a number and dial. Director, the situation is not good. The other side. Nick Fury's expression darkened immediately, and he felt a vague premonition in his heart. Hastily asked in a low voice, what happened? Could it be those Mage? No, it's not. Phil Coulson shook his head, denying his guess. Then, with a wry smile, General Ross of the military is going to find this place too. It's not surprising, Nick Fury said calmly. In this world, they are not the only ones who know the existence of magic. It's such a big deal on Broadway. I'm afraid, there are an unknown number of agents and spies gathered in this city now. But, you will never guess what they are going to do. They are ready to use force, and even sent the army over. These lunatics. Nick Fury took a deep breath. He finally knew what the situation Phil Coulson was talking about was. This is going to start a war. The battle between humans and mages. The clash of technology and mysterious magic. Did they think that these mysterious mage would let them be slaughtered like the common people? I'm afraid so, Phil Coulson said with a wry smile. I can't stop them at all. Moreover, the spies hidden in the military were also found out by them and used as bargaining chips. They have no chance of winning. Nick Fury gritted his teeth. This will only mess up our plans, judging by what I learned from Tony Stark. These mysterious mage are far more powerful than they imagined. What they can see is just the tip of the iceberg. Not to mention the army, even if it can move out the nuclear bomb, it is estimated to be of great use. Thinking of this, he felt a bit of hatred for the military in his heart. Phil Coulson, agent, try your best to hold them back, it's best to stop their actions. Remember, do whatever it takes. Hearing this, Phil Coulson subconsciously looked in the direction of Kamar Taj. I saw that black smoke rose repeatedly, and the flames of war filled the air. The whole city seemed to be in flames of war. The roar of shells is endless. In this regard, Phil Coulson can only smile wryly. I'm afraid it's too late now. The perimeter of the magic holy place. Large areas were flattened by artillery fire. The originally dilapidated houses are now directly covered under the ruins. Intensive artillery fire covered the entire area. In the sky, fighter jets roared past. From time to time, shells fell, bringing roaring bluffs. If according to the usual situation, now outside this area, there are already people eating melons. But, nowadays, not to mention the people who eat melons, there is not even a single person. The huge army dispersed all the people who wanted to approach. And the artillery fire that soared into the sky made people dispel the idea of eating melons. The only thing that can resist human instinct is violence. Outside the magic holy place. Looking at the intact buildings in front of him, General Ross couldn't help frowning. although he didn't know what was hidden inside. However, everything he saw in front of his eyes was definitely not his original appearance. However, the carpet bombing did not cause the slightest damage to the core area. Whenever a shell falls, a transparent shield will appear. The attack of artillery fire can only leave a little ripple on it, and it can't break through at all. Energy shield technology? Is this also the power of magic? This is a technology that humans are still developing. Even in military laboratories, research is ongoing. What he didn't expect was that he could already see the mature application here. Seeing this, his eyes became more and more scorching. His eyes were full of longing. But soon, he discovered that something was wrong. Why hasn't anyone shown up until now? Could it be that these mages are not at home? No, it's impossible. General Ross shook his head, dismissing the thought. According to the information Rhodes brought back, this is the base camp of the mages. There are at least 100 mages inside. I'm afraid they are afraid. Definitely, he thought of it. At the same time, they sneered at Rhodes' persuasion when they set off. He admitted that Mage's power is indeed powerful. However, he believed in the soldiers and shells under him even more. No one can survive the overwhelming artillery fire. Did Rhodes think that each of these mages could be like Green Titans, ignoring human missiles? It's just a mortal body, how can it still carry the peanuts he rewarded? Otherwise, why would these mages choose to hide and dare not appear in the public eye? Seeing that there is no movement in the holy place, the missile attack has no effect. General Ross, however, was not discouraged. The desire in my heart is getting stronger and stronger. Keep firing. Since one round is not enough, let's do another round. He wanted to see if the magic barrier was stronger, or if he had more ammunition reserves. For a while, the roar sounded again. As if a certain signal sounded, it became stronger and stronger. Inside the holy place, Modu hurried in. His face was serious, and he didn't care to wipe the sweat from his forehead. Supreme Mage, the human army is attacking us. I know. Russell made tea slowly. However, his expressionless expression showed that he was not in a good mood either. What should we do now? Modu asked immediately. At the same time, filled with anger, he said viciously. Now the mage of the entire magic holy place is waiting outside. As long as you give an order, all mage will obey your orders. These humans will definitely learn a lesson. This is the first time such a situation has been encountered since the establishment of the magic holy place. In the past, incursions from other dimensions were common. However, it was the first time for a backstab from a human being. Filled with righteous indignation and burning with anger, it is not enough to describe the anger in his heart now. Even, can't help but have some doubts. Over the years, what they have done to protect the earth. Is it right? These holy place mage will have such thoughts. It really made Russell very relieved. There is quite a feeling that so many days of hard work have not been in vain. However, in this matter, he has his own plans. So, Russell shook his head, ignored his request, and refused. No, let them go. I've sent someone to deal with this matter. Outside the holy place, he watched General Ross's every move. At the moment, in his mind, there was only one thought. Ridiculous. It's like looking at a funny joker. He never thought that after becoming the Supreme Mage, the first invasion he suffered was actually from humans. There is a sense of absurdity unconsciously in my heart. Some want to laugh, and some are speechless. As for being angry, annoyed? He didn't think these people had the right to annoy him. It's like facing the provocation of ants, who would take it seriously? It's just that unforgettable lessons are essential. Since you're here, stay here forever, Russell said quietly. Kamar Taj. The sky above this inconspicuous city on the map. At the moment, I don't know how many satellites are watching all this. The actions of the military cannot be hidden from anyone. Even some free journalists can't hide it. Under the roar of artillery fire, there was a piece of scorched earth. General Ross looked at the messy scene in front of him, and couldn't help being a little annoyed. Why are these damn mages still indifferent? It's okay to be indifferent. Why the F***K can't even enter other people's houses? Cooperate with their army and wait here to eat ashes? At this moment, some soldiers came in a hurry. General, the number of missiles is no longer enough. Then send a batch to the nearest military base, General Ross said angrily. In the current situation, he felt like he was being played by someone. Dobby's funds were squandered, but to no avail. Outside, I don't know how many people are watching his jokes. However, this is his own decision. Even if you grit your teeth, you have to swallow it. With tears in my eyes, I have to finish the cannon. However, at this moment, in the cloud of smoke and dust, the figure of huge amounts of is looming. Someone came out of it. Hearing this, General Ross's eyes lit up immediately, and he looked over quickly. However, inexplicable. The figure in the smoke and dust made him feel a little familiar. However, I can't figure out where this feeling comes from. However, when the smoke cleared away, the figure inside was also revealed in front of everyone. Hiss. Immediately, he couldn't help but gasped, and his expression became inexplicably terrified. What's more, he backed up again and again, staggered and fell to the ground. There is no time to care about the reaction of the soldiers under him. At the moment, General Ross himself was stunned by the figure that appeared in front of him, and he froze in place. In his mouth, he couldn't help muttering to himself. Isn't this Bronsky? Abomination? What appeared before his eyes was that terrifying figure. Tall body, terrifying muscles, ferocious face. And the sharp bone spurs on its back. Isn't that just hate? It's just that the hatred in front of him is different. His dark complexion made him look even more hideous. In the open bloody mouth, there is also black aura pervading. Even the air can be corroded, sizzling. It's like a demon coming out of hell. It's extremely terrifying. Such a scary look. No wonder, the soldiers under his hands were so frightened that their legs went limp. Even General Ross himself found it hard to accept for a while. Hasn't he already been dealt with by Mage? Why did he appear in this place? He clearly remembered the scene of falling to the ground in disgust. The scene at that time left a deep impression on him. However, what he never expected was that I will actually meet this monster again. Moreover, it seems that it has become even stronger. So, he didn't die at all? He was just brought here by Mage last time? Only this one explains it. Maybe he used some method that he couldn't understand to deceive the world. However, the current situation does not allow him to think so much. The appearance of hatred simply disrupted his entire plan. Against humans, their weapons are invincible without any pressure. But against monsters, they have nothing to do. Bronsky, have you forgotten where you are? General Ross growled at him. He only hopes that the current abomination can still maintain his rationality and clearly distinguish the pros and cons of the scene. He didn't want to experience the scene of being crushed by hatred and suffering heavy casualties again. We are not your enemy. Those Mage are the opponents you need to deal with. You should be very clear about what they did to you. So discord. This was the only way General Ross could think of to break the situation. He has a deep understanding of the power of hatred. Even if everyone present is combined, it is not enough for him to fight with one hand. Only by making the hatred sober and standing in their camp can there be a chance to ease. At that time, we will be able to use the power of abomination to solve these Mage. General Ross thought to himself. However, the development of things was somewhat beyond his expectation. Facing his proposal, Hate stretched out a finger in a very humane way, and shook it. Immediately afterwards, he grinned, revealing a bloody mouth. I think you may be disappointed. My current name is Dormammu. Dormammu. General Ross was stunned. He didn't understand at all what kind of changes had taken place in the monster in front of him. Not only has the outside become more terrifying, but why has the name been changed? What the name Dormammu stands for, he has no idea. However, it did not prevent the ominous premonition in his mind from getting stronger. Really. As soon as the words were finished, Dormammu sprang into action. A gigantic figure like a demon exploded. The huge force even shattered the ground. This monster has grown stronger. Looking at this scene, General Ross felt a little apprehensive, and his sense of crisis became stronger and stronger. However, on the surface, he dared not show it at all. Fire. With an order, gunfire spewed out. The overwhelming torrent of steel swept away. In the air, the sound of bullets flying fast can be heard endlessly. However, General Ross immediately turned his head and ordered with a serious face. Activate the sonic weapon immediately and stop this monster for me. He knew that common guns and shells couldn't do any damage to the abomination. What's more, now this monster called Dormammu is obviously more powerful. Soon, several sonic launchers shaped like miniature tanks arrived. The barrel of the black hole is aimed at the direction of Dormammu. Boom. After a few muffled sounds, ripple spread visible to the naked eye. Like a ring-shaped air cannon, it moved straight forward, vibrating the air. What follows is the frequency of sound waves that are unbearable for human beings. Just passing by, Many soldiers were affected and suffered terribly. Even if it can't be hurt, it can be repelled temporarily, so buy us time. General Ross thought to himself. This is the weapon that used to be used against Green Titans. Although the capture work was not successful at the time. However, at least it had some effect. I believe that this sound wave transmitter, which has been redeveloped and modified, will definitely buy time for their retreat. Yes, that's right, retreat. The moment the hatred appeared, General Ross already retreated in his heart. No one knows the power of hatred better than him. What's more, this seems to be a mutated abomination again. It is simply impossible to fight against it. General Ross turned to leave. However, at this moment, behind him, the loud explosion was deafening. Boom. The powerful shockwave from the explosion shook the entire ground. Looking back, General Ross was stunned. What the hell, is it still hate? What kind of monster is this? Not far away, Phil Coulson, who witnessed all this with his own eyes, was completely messed up, muttering to himself. I remember the last time this monster appeared. On Broadway, it was obviously not so powerful. Also, this is a monster made from Green Titan serum. How could it have such an ability? Spit out. Green Titan is not as outrageous as you. At the moment, in the mouth of Dormammu, dark energy gathered again. Dark and deep energy gathered, and a thick black mist enveloped his huge body. What is revealed in the eyes of others is only the darker and brighter light. It seemed that even the air was swept away, and airflow visible to the naked eye appeared. A violent storm erupted suddenly, and the bewildered people couldn't open their eyes. No, get out of this ghost place. General Ross suddenly felt bad. In my heart, the sense of crisis is getting stronger. However, at this moment, the gold vortex suddenly appeared. Inside the portal, several figures walked out from it. As soon as he appeared, Russell noticed the strangeness on the field, and stopped him. Stop it, Dormammu. Hearing this, Dormammu was taken aback for a moment. Turning his head, he looked over with some steady eyes, and said vaguely. Didn't you say that these people should be handed over to me? He also plans to have fun with these people, and vent his negative emotions by the way. As a result, who could have imagined it? This guy Russell doesn't even care what he says. I've changed my mind, Russell said with a succinct speech and a playful smile. It seems too cheap for them to settle the matter like this. Seeing this, Dormammu's movements froze for a moment. In the mouth, the deep light gradually dissipated. If it was normal, he would definitely not be able to help but refute. However, look at it now. This supreme mage seems to really be unable to bear it and wants to do it himself. Russell nodded in immediate satisfaction. He turned his head, looked to the side, and said with a smile. Violence can only bring hatred, but the unknown can bring fear. You think that's the right thing to say, Tony? That's right, Tony nodded. That being said, it is true. However, he also has some doubts about what Supreme Mage wants to do. Although magic is indeed an unknown field for humans. However, in fact, with the development of modern technology to this level, there are few completely unknown areas. Even magic can produce associations to a certain extent. Portal equals space teleportation technology. Soul astral equals spiritual energy particle state. Ring of Ragador equals use of energy weapons. Although modern technology has not yet reached such heights. However, this does not prevent humans from dreaming. When seeing all kinds of novel magic, people will only be amazed and shocked. As for going further, the fear of the unknown. Come on. That is something that human beings cannot understand, and it will produce such emotions. At least, according to Tony, the existence of magic really can't do this. In fact, he believed it too. As long as the technological level of mankind makes another leap forward, it will be able to do this sooner or later. At least, he thinks he can do it. Well, although it's the Living Years series. Sensing Tony's thoughts, Russell couldn't help feeling a little emotional. It seems that everyone has underestimated the role of magic. No wonder this happened. The human army dares to march into the mysterious realm. Challenge Kamar Taj. All of this can only be blamed on the magic in the magic holy place. It is too conservative. The same white magic, gentle and conservative. The expressiveness is bound to be somewhat unsatisfactory. People tend to infer the truth from the pictures they see in their eyes. By guessing, try to figure out the thinking of the strong. Treat kindness as an excuse for their presumptuousness. Therefore, this kind of thing happened. However, these people seem to think everything is too good. I believe that even the moderate ancient one would not be able to resist such a provocation. Not to mention, the current supreme mage is still a bit of a bad-tempered Russell. He seemed very calm and didn't show much anger. As for the reason for the shot, humanity will pay for what it has done. Just in time, take this opportunity to try something. Beside him, Gold's vortex suddenly opened. Russell reached out and immediately pulled something out of it. Eye of Agamotto. Just one action immediately caught everyone's attention. For a while, on the field, everyone's eyes turned to him. What is that? Isn't that Mage just the one who appeared on Broadway? Feel bad. Seeing this, Mo-Do couldn't help but sighed while touching his forehead. It's over. Supreme Mage is playing for real this time. To say the whole Kamar Taj. Apart from Supreme Mage, he is the one who knows this artifact best. When Ancient One was in power, she could often be seen using this to predict the future and peek into everything. However, now, at this time, Supreme Mage took out this artifact, obviously not for this reason. These intruders would be worse than death, Mo-Do said firmly. Next to him, Tony was suddenly a little surprised. What do you mean by saying this? Could it be that the Supreme Mage will torture them? No. Mo-Do shook his head and denied, Supreme Mage won't be so cruel. He will only make their lives one step faster. In his heart, he already guessed what Russell would do. Sometimes, compared to bloody killings, the pain of living is even more unbearable. Life? One step faster. Tony expressed a look of bewilderment. The expression on his face was full of bewilderment. He has only been exposed to magic for a short time, and he doesn't even fully understand the function of the magic holy place. How could one know the power of the Eye of Agamotto? However, Dang Kui Green's light gradually spread. Soon, he understood everything. The magic wave spreads. In both hands, the Eye of Agamotto shines brightly. The time gem imprisoned inside gradually shakes. The emerald green light gradually spread, covering the entire area. Even the clouds in the sky are printed with thick emerald green. The crowd panicked and panicked. Even General Ross, who is usually moody and angry, panicked. In a panic, I want to escape from this area. In my heart, a stronger sense of crisis is urging. But, after all, it's too late, when the light shrouded the moment. In their ears, it seemed as if they heard the death god's sentence, and the wailing of the soul. Holding the Eye of Agamotto in his hand, Russell watched all this quietly. It seems that all the states of life are engraved in his eyes. Compared to Modo, I'm still too kind, outside the magic holy place. It was silent, accompanied by the gradual spread of emerald green light. The entire area suddenly underwent earth-shaking changes. Everything is going backwards. Collapsed houses, buried debris. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it violates the laws of physics in general. Under the blessing of a certain power, it gradually became intact. Even the broken ground was repaired. All new, back to the original. It was supposed to be a performance that would have been greeted with cheers. Amazing show. However, everyone who watched all this in various ways looked horrified. It was so terrifying that even the soul trembled. Goosebumps could not be stopped all over his body. Even the teeth are chattering, trembling. In the silence, someone finally couldn't help but speak. What the hell happened? For a while, the fear in everyone's heart exploded. Screams sounded one after another. What's more, he was even paralyzed to the ground by fright. Outside the area, Phil Coulson was also frightened into a cold sweat, and the sweat drenched his whole body. Behind him, the Sunspot agents couldn't help but express the fear in their hearts. Is this the true power of magic? Everything that happened before their eyes was simply beyond imagination. Decay. Decay. Everything is decaying. All weapons, firearms, even fighter jets in the sky. They are all rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye. Those weapons and equipment that have undergone strict maintenance and harsh inspections. At the moment, rusty, it's like experiencing countless time flies. In the end, it gradually turned into dust. Thick dust particles filled the area, flying through the air. These particles, which were originally invisible to the naked eye, are presenting in front of them at the moment. However, they have no time to care about these. Everyone's thoughts are on those old people. Yes, that's right, the old man. Not so long ago, they were a group of well-trained soldiers, all strong and strong. I believe that no matter which unit you put in, you are an elite. But now, presented in front of them were just a group of elderly people whose lives were dying. On the old face, countless wrinkles appeared. The sunken eyes were full of turbidity. Dry body, skinny. The skeleton of the whole body is clearly visible, as if countless nutrients are missing. Age spots, representing death, filled every piece of skin on his body. Lying on the ground, motionless. Only the terrified and turning eyes can show the sign that they are alive. For a moment, a disgusting and decadent atmosphere permeated the scene, filling every corner. Many people even couldn't help but vomit it out. What did the Supreme Mage do to them? Tony asked through gritted teeth, suppressing the panic in his heart. Everything that happened in front of him was simply beyond his imagination. He thought that after he was exposed to magic, he would no longer be frightened by anything. But now he knew he was wrong. Moreover, it was outrageously wrong. You tell me, this thing can also be called magic? Could it be that I have misunderstood the power of magic? That's right, it's time magic. Modu pinched his nose and said in pain. Although I knew that Supreme Mage would make a big move. However, after witnessing it with my own eyes, it is still a bit weird. These people, I am afraid that it is extremely difficult to even move, and they can only spend the rest of their lives lying in bed. What's more, he found out. The souls of these people do not seem to be affected by the acceleration of time. Young soul, old body. Hope they can hold on. Modu could only mourn in silence in his heart. Then turn around and forget about it. Who dared them to invade the magical holy place? Time magic. The ability to manipulate time. Hearing this, Tony's face suddenly changed, and he muttered to himself. What kind of magic is this? You say he is God, I will believe it now. It's just a collapse of the three views. Tony never thought that magic could achieve such an effect. The magic of manipulating time. In his opinion, this is simply incredible. Even after knowing the truth, I still feel a little unbelievable. And for those who don't know, it's a disaster. Everyone fell into panic and madness. The scene that appeared in front of them made them feel the fear that they had never experienced before. And, gradually spread in everyone's heart, it's getting deeper and deeper. Russell, however, was pleased with the effect. Looking at the brilliance of the Emerald Green's magical power in his hand, he smiled all over his face. It seems that only by having the courage to try can we understand the nature of this power. Immediately, he turned his head and looked at the dying old man on the field. It can't be so simple to let you get rid of it. In the hand, the light of magic power changes. A pitch black color envelops both hands. Decayed and dark, representing the emergence of the power of the dark dimension. Russell smiled slightly, feeling a little dark-bellied. Let me add a ratio to the back of your lifespan. Well, by the way, seal the soul in the body as well. In this way, even if you were killed by someone, you can still experience the fun of being a dead man. A living dead man in a hospital bed. By the way, let faith transform you with hellfire. In this way, you don't have to worry about your own death anymore. Because, contaminated with the breath of hell, even if he is dead, faith can revive him. It's useless to scatter the ashes. The curse of immortality, find out.